Hi everybody, my name is Cassandra Briggs, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the claim proposition that we're repealing of the early release of prisoners. My partner Jasmine had already stated her first claim that overcrowding is that a solution to it would be building more prisons, building more walls, keeping those prisoners inside jail versus my opponent's idea of releasing them out just because it would reduce the budget. Neither his... Can I start over? No.
It's your 7 minutes. You can use it any way you like.
Like she said, overcrowding is a huge problem, but though it may be a problem, there's also a solution. The solution, as she had already stated, would be to build more bridges, more walls. My opponent is suggesting that you release these prisoners in hopes that it would reduce our budget, because our budget is stretched so thin as it is. Though he says it's not a huge risk to public safety, he does overlook that it is, in fact, not just a small risk, it's a huge risk. In an article published by Sylvia Conrad, although the early release of elderly offender prisoner inmates of low-level offenders on paper sounds like a great money-saving step, the inmate release from prisoners could actually lead to an increase in crime, thereby needing for more costly police work, incarceration, and junction. Basically, this whole idea is counterproductive because it is stated that they're only releasing the low-grade risk prisoners and the low-profile ones. But in a recent incident that happened, Bill Bean Jr. was murdered while in line of duty by a quote of a nonviolent and low-level parolee, which is what they actually happen to be releasing at the moment. And the parolee was apprehended quickly because at the time there was a parolee agent watching him. However, sadly, if another Sacramento police officer or another officer or anywhere in the state loses their license in the coming years, that would have not happened because Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Corrections Department have seen fit that low-level parolees will no longer be supervised. Here is a huge problem, the fact that they're releasing these low-level parolees, but they're not giving them any supervision because they're so focused on the high-level parolees that since they are releasing, as is stated, 6,500 inmates this year, at least. And then the state law aimed at saving millions of dollars by ceasing the overcrowding that took effect January 25th of this year. State officials estimated that about 6,500 inmates in state prisons will be released over the early next year. In addition, to cut costs, states will reduce parolee agents to caseloads to only focus on those high-risk parolees. Okay. And then coming to address the idea of that it's good for the budget. Quoting an article by Jim Sanders, "It's a horrible public safety policy and it's a horrible fiscal policy," said Jim Turana, a law enforcement lobbyist. The California Police Chiefs Association is joined with the fight by the Association for Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, the Los Angeles Police Protective League, and the Riverside County Sheriff's Association. All lobbying began last week. All of pretty much the entire state of California's law enforcement, if you will, is completely against this. These are people that are set here to protect us. They're trying to tell us what's best for us and how to serve us and how to protect us. And if they're all completely against us, that should be a huge red flag and warning. And another thing that the police department is saying is you've already cut not only the educational budget, the police department budget, the fire budget, you've cut every budget there is. If you let all these prisoners out, there's only so many police officers that can combat this. And if you're letting out like 60,000 and 2 out of 3 of those will commit again, they can't handle the caseload. Now, according to my arguers, thought that the whole point of parolee is to reinstitutionalize and bring these men back out into society is a good idea. I have a quote saying that, "I believe that there will be ways to achieve savings without releasing prisoners on the street," Assembly Republican leader Sam Belinsky said Monday of last month. He also said the police chiefs are also concerned that there is no money available to help these prisoners return to society. There is no money for job training. There is no money to do any transition for these folks into institutional life back into the community, he said. It's more than just releasing them. It's releasing them without really any plan. So when he's saying that, oh yeah, they'll get jobs, oh yeah, they'll do this, there's no money for that. There's no way to even enforce that or even start that. So they're literally releasing 6,000 prisoners to do nothing. And then my point that I would like to add is that because they're releasing all these prisoners, it's actually raising many lawsuits against California. Earlier in 2008, there was a law that was voted. It was Proposition 9 that was stated. It's called Marcy's Law, and I'm not sure if any of you are really familiar with that. Basically, Marcy's Law on November 4th, 2008, the voters of the state of California approved Proposition 9. The Victims of Bill of Rights Act of 2009, Marcy's Law, a measure to provide all victims with rights in due process. It's a summary that simply tries to prevent the exact same thing from what's happening now. The whole point of Marcy's Law is to enforce the rights of the victims of the crime by keeping the prisoners behind bars for their entire sentence. Furthermore, to ensure the efficiency and the justice and the due process of law. We already have a law in state at this moment that says you can't do what's happening right now. So because somebody thought this was a good idea to just release all these prisoners because our budget is so thin, it's actually violating a law already, causing lawsuits, which are going to cause the state of California more money because in lawsuits you have to pay somebody. So the state of California is going to be losing more money because they're in violation of it. And let's see. The lawsuits filed by the crimes victims of the United States of California claims the new law violates provision added to the state constitution in 2008 when voters passed Proposition 9, Victims' Rights, and parolee measure known as Marcy's Law. I think that's just about it. Just to kind of wrap it up, overcrowding public safety should come before overcrowding. These men are in prison for a reason. They've murdered people, they've hurt people. We shouldn't just release them because we're worried about running out of money for the state. They should stay where they are to prevent themselves from harming other people. None of that makes sense. It's counterproductive completely. And it's in violation of other things we've already voted on.